Did the Garden of Eden have physical locale on the earth? Or is it somewhere in the heavens, inaccessible to mankind today? The Garden of Eden has never ceased to fascinate scholars and laymen alike. I recall being no older than 10 years old, flipping through the pages of my Bible, referencing the biblical maps, attempting to pinpoint the exact location of the Garden of Eden, believing I could be like Indiana Jones and uncover the flaming sword in the Tree of Life. No doubt an impossibility, but what may not be impossible is finding and maybe even standing on the very spot where Eden was located. 5 theories about its location will be presented here. The Persian Gulf. The most common theory for where the Garden of Eden was located is underwater, in the Persian Gulf. Genesis 2 mentions 4 rivers which branch off from one central river flowing out of the Garden of Eden. 2 of these rivers have been lost to time, the Pishon and the Gihon. The other 2, the Euphrates and the Tigris, seem to be in existence today, unless these rivers were given their names in honor of the legendary rivers which surrounded Eden, which is definitely a possibility. The garden could then be assumed to lie somewhere within the vicinity of these 2 rivers. In the 1980s, archaeologist Juris Zarins hypothesized with the use of improved satellite technology that the Karen River in southwestern Iran is the same river as the missing Pishon River. More images of the area revealed a dried riverbed, abundant with animal fossils, which is something you'd expect to see from the Garden of Eden being filled with animal life. Stone tools used by early humans have also been discovered, supporting the presence of humans. After Noah's flood and thousands of years of erosion, the Garden of Eden was submerged in the Persian Gulf. Although this theory is the leading paradigm amongst evangelicals, it leaves out passages such as Ezekiel 28:13-14, which speaks of Eden as being situated on top of a mountain, not in a low plain-like area that is the Fertile Crescent of the Middle East. Others have claimed Eden to be in a mountainous topography, one which could have been the region of Lebanon. Equipped with a mountainous topography, Lebanon may be a more apt description of Eden, especially when you pair other verses which seem to outright say that Eden was in Lebanon. Ezekiel 31:16 says, "I made the nation shake at the sound of its fall, when I cast it down to hell, together with those who descend into the pit. And all the trees of Eden, the choice and the best of Lebanon, all that drank water were comforted in the depths of the earth." As we can see from this map, however, Lebanon is nowhere in the vicinity of the Tigris and the Euphrates, but that does not rule it out entirely, as I mentioned before, that there is no way to prove that these were the actual Tigris and Euphrates mentioned in Genesis. Another verse similar to Ezekiel 31:16 that pairs Eden with a city is Isaiah 37:12. "Have the gods of the nations delivered those whom my father have destroyed, Gozan and Haran and Rezeph, and the people of Eden who were in Telassar?" The mention of the ancient city of Telassar may seem hopeful, except for when you realize that it is on the opposite side of Mesopotamia. Okay, so we seem to be all over the place here. This may not be as big of a problem if you consider the textual details of Genesis 2. The Garden of Eden is said to be inside of Eden, an area, one might say, or a country, in the same way that the United States is in the area of the Americas. It's the United States of or in America. So Eden technically could have been a very large area, and the garden a small specific area within that large country. The entire Fertile Crescent of the ancient world would be a good boundary for Eden, an area which encompasses all of the locations mentioned previously. It would have been fitting for such an important region in the ancient world to be described with such affection as Eden is. Continuing with the theme of Eden being situated on top of a mountain, a likely candidate for the garden outshines the rest due to its biblical importance. None other than the holy city of Jerusalem and the location of the temple of God, Mount Moriah. What is it about Jerusalem and Mount Moriah that makes it more special than other areas or regions? To this day, it is the most contested piece of real estate in the world. Some have suggested that the reason the Bible focuses so much on this area where Jesus walked and will return one day is because it is the place where it all began literally. One of the interesting clues that can be found in Jerusalem is the existence of a spring called Gihon.
Here at our feet flows the Gihon spring, the main source of water for the city of David. From here, the water flows through the heart of the rock to the Siloam pool.
Genesis 2:13 names Gihon as being one of the 4 rivers which flowed out of Eden. This Gihon spring in Jerusalem is no ordinary spring in the Bible either. It was the water used to anoint kings like Solomon, and it was likely a place used for ceremonial washing and purification before ascending Mount Moriah to beseech God in his temple. No ordinary H2O, that's for sure. Genesis 2 says that the Gihon River flowed around the whole land of Cush. This is where Cush is on a map, compared to where Jerusalem is. So if the Gihon spring has any physical connection to the river of Gihon, then we could expect to find some sort of underground water channel, which at one time may have been the Gihon River, connecting the land of Cush to Jerusalem. This was the theory of the famous 1st century Jewish historian Josephus. He thought that there was an underground channel from the Nile River in Cush to the spring of Gihon. Come to find, there's a species of catfish in Israel called karakinos, which somehow travels from the Nile River to the Sea of Galilee by way of an underground water channel. And this may very well be the former river of Gihon that the spring of Gihon is welling up from. Aside from the Gihon spring in Jerusalem, just the presence of the temple could indicate a connection to the Garden of Eden, because Eden may have functioned as a temple, with Adam serving as the role of a priest. See my previous video, Adam was a priest, Temple of the Garden of Eden, for further support on that matter. The case for Jerusalem as being the Garden of Eden solidifies even more when the topic of end times comes up. Jerusalem is the epicenter for future worship in the millennium. All things are restored to the former Edenic state, and humans are brought back into the fold of God's family. So it would logically follow that the place where it all started and the place where it is all restored be one and the same. For the 5th and last possible location for Eden, we're going to be getting out there literally. Some have thought that locating the Garden of Eden on earth to be futile due to its heavenly nature and extra-dimensional bent. When Adam and Eve are driven out of the Garden of Eden, a cherubim is placed on the eastern side of what is assumed to be a gate or entryway, or if you want to get cheesy like I do, a portal. If they were banished from a physical place, there would not be the need for spiritual beings to render their attempts at re-entering ineffective. We are also not given insight into whether or not Adam could just waltz up to the gate and peek between the cherubim's wings from time to time, longing to go back inside. This is unlikely. Rather, Eden was similar to the Hebraic concept of sacred space. Many times in the Bible, there are moments where the heavenly dimension and the earthly realm are merging. Refer to this list as an example. When Moses is in the sacred space on Mount Sinai in Exodus 34, it says that his face shone, so much so that he would have to wear a veil, and eventually the light would dim and go back to normal. This is analogous to the process that Adam may have went through. Once exiled, he is incapable of entering God's presence because he is now sinful. Revelation 21:27 says no unclean thing can enter heaven. He then goes through a process of shining as the sun, from being able to see angels interdimensionally, like Elijah and his servants with the flaming chariots, to only being able to occasionally glimpse the spiritual, just as we are today. This picture of losing your spiritual abilities makes the loss of Eden much more painful to imagine. Jesus comes to restore us to the family, to remerge our flesh with the heavenly realm, and to bring us home to Eden, the heavenly Jerusalem. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Renaissance Ministries with David Irwin. Please like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss my next video. God bless.